In December 2021, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization Committee approved the malaria vaccine proposal for Africa's malaria-endemic countries. This follows the World Health Organization's recommendation on the 6th of October that children in moderate transmission areas take Mosquirix, the first-ever malaria vaccine, to guard against Plasmodium falciparum, an endemic malaria virus. The decisions represent the culmination of a years-long effort to create a vaccination against this pathogen. So, how did the vaccine develop? And what lessons may be learned for future vaccines? Make sure to like and subscribe the channel so that you can get news about latest health researches in future. How is malaria caused? Malaria is caused by the Plasmodium parasite, which is transmitted to humans by the bite of the female Anopheles mosquito. The initial symptoms often occur within 15 days, and if malaria is treated early, most people recover fully. However, because early symptoms, headache, fever, and chills, might be modest or mistaken for other ailments, people sometimes discover malaria too late. Plasmodium falciparum malaria, if left untreated, can result in severe sickness and death within 24 hours. According to the World Health Organization, there were roughly 229 million cases of malaria and 409,000 fatalities globally in 2019. Children under the age of 5 accounted for 2/3 of the deaths. The majority of these deaths occur in sub-Saharan Africa. Plasmodium falciparum is the leading species, accounting for more than 90% of malaria deaths. However, there are 4 other species, with Plasmodium vivax posing the biggest threat. It is a significant species in many nations outside of Africa. Early development. In the 1980s, researchers at the U.S. Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, in partnership with individuals from SmithKline and France, attempted to produce a protein subunit vaccine to prevent the parasite's sporozoite phase. If you can prevent the sporozoites from getting into the liver, the rest of the cycle won't happen, he said. The concept is to train the immune system infection by allowing a sporozoite surface protein known as circumsporozoite protein to enter liver cells, resulting in a narrow window into the immune system. However, Joe Cohen, a scientist at GlaxoSmithKline, has proposed alerting the immune system to circumsporozoite protein by utilizing the hepatitis B virus surface protein as a scaffold, deceiving the immune system into believing it is part of the disease to display circumsporozoite protein as virus-like particles. Although Lord Shulman, head of worldwide immunotherapy at GlaxoSmithKline, stated they may provide some immunity, but they cannot prove that the vaccines provide a block of protection, this molecular slight did not prove to be sufficient. Consequently, the researchers went back to the drawing board and experimented with different adjuvant ingredients that boost the immune system combinations for different vaccinations. The breakthrough. Walter Reed Army Institute of Research made a significant advance by developing a human challenge model, a method of safely infecting humans with the pathogen of interest, Plasmodium falciparum, to quickly determine which of multiple vaccine candidates produced the best degree of protection against it. This entailed establishing a colony of Anopheles mosquitoes and feeding them on blood contaminated with Plasmodium falciparum parasites, which were known to be resistant to routinely used anti-malarial medications. Volunteers were then divided into groups and injected with different vaccination candidates. After the immunizations had had time to take effect, the volunteers allowed themselves to be bitten by infected mosquitoes. As soon as an infection was identified, indicating that the vaccine was ineffective, the volunteers were given anti-malarial medications to keep them from becoming ill. In 1997, the researchers discovered an adjuvant formulation was extremely effective against malaria. The next stage was larger human trials, beginning with adults and progressing to teenagers, children, and newborns in sub-Saharan African countries with the highest malaria burden. A new paradigm in vaccine research and development. However, there was another challenge to conquer. Unlike other major infectious killers for which vaccines have been successfully developed, malaria is largely a disease of the global south. This means that the traditional paradigm of sharing the risks and recovering the expenses of vaccine research and development by charging wealthy countries more for a vaccine once it has been authorized will not work. A whole new model for vaccine development had to be created, one that included external partners like as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, World Health Organization, and the non-profit Global Health Organization path from the start. The vaccine trials. Another milestone occurred in 2004 when the results of a double-blind, randomized controlled study in young children in Mozambique revealed for the first time that the Mosquirix vaccine was safe, well-tolerated and effective in preventing malaria in this age group. More trials followed, and in 2015, the results of a large Phase 3 trial conducted in more than 7 African countries revealed that 3 doses of Mosquirix, administered at 1-month intervals and followed by a booster dose 18 months later, helped to protect children and infants from clinical malaria for at least 3 years after the first vaccination. Among children aged 5 to 17 months at the first vaccination, the number of clinical malaria cases was reduced by 39% until the completion of the research. The potential impact. When compared to the efficacy of current COVID-19 vaccinations, 39% may not seem like much, but when considered against the enormous worldwide burden of malaria, it represented a substantial reduction in cases. One modeling study estimated that if all children in high-incidence nations received the entire series of doses, the vaccine may save 23,000 lives each year. Malaria is such a common disease that youngsters can get sick repeatedly throughout the year, so a 30% reduction equates to a substantial number of instances prevented. In one of the clinical centers participating in the Phase 3 trial, we found nearly 6,000 malaria cases avoided for every 1,000 children who were vaccinated. Furthermore, the vaccine is not intended to be used alone, but in conjunction with other malaria prevention tools, such as insecticide-treated bed nets, insecticide spraying, or seasonal malaria chemoprevention, which is the intermittent administration of anti-malarial medication during the malaria season to prevent illness. The pilots. Following the publication of the trial results in 2015, the World Health Organization requested that vaccine rollout be piloted in 3 to 5 African countries to determine the feasibility of administering 4 doses to children alongside existing vaccine programs and to collect additional real-world safety and efficacy data. These pilot projects were initiated in Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi in 2019, and more than 830,000 children have been immunized to date. The initial findings revealed that hospitalizations for severe malaria dropped by approximately 30%. The vaccination has significantly boosted access to malaria prophylaxis, reaching more than 2/3 of children who are not covered by an insecticide-treated net. Vaccination has not reduced the usage of nets in regions where they were previously prevalent. How is the vaccine being rolled out? After World Health Organization recommended the Mosquirix vaccine against malaria in late 2021, Gavi's board approved a new program in December 2021 to support the introduction of malaria vaccines to eligible countries in sub-Saharan Africa. In July 2023, 18 million doses of Mosquirix available for 2023 to 2025 were allocated to 12 countries, prioritizing those doses to areas of highest need, where the risk of malaria illness and death among children is highest until vaccine supply increases to fully meet demand. As more supply becomes available, countries will expand introduction to fully meet public health needs. In November 2023, the first shipment of 331,200 doses of Mosquirix vaccine arrived in Cameroon. Demand for malaria vaccines is significant in 2024 alone. 20 countries in Africa plan to introduce the malaria vaccine into their childhood immunization programs and as part of their national malaria control strategies. Annually, at least 40 to 60 million doses of malaria vaccine will be needed by 2026, growing to 80 to 100 million doses each year by 2030. R21 malaria vaccine. The R21 vaccine is the second malaria vaccine recommended by WHO, which approved or pre-qualified its use in December 2023. It works similarly to the Mosquirix vaccine by targeting the sporozoite of the malaria parasite. In areas where malaria transmission is highly seasonal malaria transmission, limited to 4 to 5 months per year, the R21 vaccine reduced malaria cases by 75%. According to World Health Organization, this high efficacy is similar to the efficacy demonstrated when Mosquirix is given seasonally. There is no evidence to date showing one vaccine performs better than the other. The choice of product to be used in a country should be based on programmatic characteristics, vaccine supply, and vaccine affordability.